We do record all of these, and the reason for that is if you miss one or you've missed some of them, or you want to go back and double check a topic that was covered or whatever, this is part of your community membership. So I think we have probably close to 2 or 3 years worth now of these calls recorded on a monthly basis. You can go back and listen to those and chop them up. And I think she even tags the different topics.
Yes.
So they're tagged almost like a YouTube video is. So if you scroll through, you can find a certain topic that you're looking for. Also, in the bottom, if you click on the chat function there, it'll pull a little chat box up over to your right. You'll see Carla's welcome over there. You can chat with each other in there. So this isn't just about us answering questions for you all. It's also about you chatting together as a community. So if somebody asks a question and you have a comment on that, you can jump over in the chat and give them your 2 cents worth as an operator yourself. You can also post questions in the chat. So if you're shy and you don't want to turn on your video camera, that's fine. If you don't want to turn on even your audio, you don't have to do that. You can just drop the comment or drop the questions in the comment section over there, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. As I mentioned, this is our March group coaching call. We do this every month as long as you're a community member. Occasionally, we do have celebrity guests with us. Today, it looks like we have a celebrity guest of Joel Blitzer. He's our one of our business partners at Laundromat Millionaire Insurance Program. So Joel and Larry, his business partner, are also fantastic business owners in general. So they have a perspective of owning an insurance agency. They have insured over 1,000 laundromats.
And they've been doing it like 25, 30 years between
25 years. So if you have any insurance questions, me and Carla might have our 2 cents worth, but we have an expert in the chat here. One of the things I also tell people is Joel and Larry, because they insure so many laundromat owners, they have a lot of conversations and are friends with a lot of laundromat owners. And so they have perspectives as to, I have a client that does this and I have a client that does that type of thing, that they're always willing to throw into this membership call. So Joel, nice to have you here as well. Carla, what did I miss? Have I missed anything?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Well, we'll jump right into it because we want to give you guys as much value as we can. I know for some of you on the West Coast, it's a little bit early, but we appreciate you guys being here. We usually do get more guests that are jumping in and joining the call throughout the hour, usually at least the first 15 or 20 minutes. If you have to leave early or if you need to mute yourself for a second or something like that, that's totally fine. The other thing I'll share with you is if you are comfortable turning on your camera and turning on your audio, you are more than welcome to ask a question that way. Another thing that we try to do throughout the hour is if you ask a question and we don't have any other questions in the queue, sometimes we'll give you a little bit longer answer, a little bit more nuanced answer if we have the time to do so. So don't be shy. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. If you also go to the bottom of your screen there, you'll see a little raised hand emoji. If you click on that, if you look, it'll do this. You see my raise hand emoji in the top corner there. And then you can just lower your hand once we've called on you. That's a great way to let us know, hey, when this question is over, I've got another question type of thing. Last thing I think I'll throw out there is if you do have your video camera on, you can just raise your hand the old-fashioned way, right? Just like we're in an old classroom in school, and we'll try to get to you as soon as we can. But our goal with this, the more people that join, the more content we get for everybody. And the more we can kind of share. A lot of people like to join these calls just to be kind of fly on the wall and listen to other people's questions about business and things like that. So if that's you, that's totally fine as well. But we are here to help you as much as we can. Our goal is to at least answer 1 or 2 questions for each person that's in the chat. So once again, don't be shy. If you have questions, let them rip.
All right. So what do y'all want to talk about today?
I want to talk about
what's on everyone's minds.
Laundromats. How about that? Anybody want to talk about laundromats?
The weather's terrible.
The weather is terrible.
Oh, yesterday it was beautiful. Here it was 80 degrees yesterday, and today's high is like 50.
Yeah. I was actually complaining like a little sissy. I looked at Carla yesterday and I said, I'm actually hot. Like I just had a t-shirt on and jeans, and I was hot.
Summer yesterday.
It did feel like summer. It was
in the beginning of the week. It was snowing.
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, did you put a jacket on this winter?
No. Well, I did. We got our blizzard when it was 0 degrees for 2 weeks straight. I put a coat on. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm hot natured. So I rarely wear a coat unless I'm going to be outside for, 20 or 30 minutes. Even in the winter, I'm like, I can run from here to the store or here to Home Depot or here to the bank, whatever I'm doing. But yeah, don't be shy, guys. I see some friendly faces and I see some friendly names in the chats. And more people typically will join in the first 15 or 20 minutes. So while you're one of the newcomers to the chat, don't hesitate to get your questions in. Yes,
Okay, Jim has
go
a
ahead.
question.
If you'd like, you can just unmute yourself so we can hear you. I saw you physically raise your hand there.
Can you hear? Whoops.
Perfect.
You're good.
Good.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Question. You guys have added a lot of things over the time and like horse blankets and rug cleaning and stuff. What things have you tried that did not work out, and why did they not work out?
Well, to add to it, one we're just now starting, we're doing wedding gown preservation.
Mhm.
So some of the things, I think the hardest thing about if it works or if it doesn't work is the partner, because some of those items are things we don't clean ourselves. So like dry cleaning, we're now bringing a lot of dry cleaning in house because we got the Presto, but we do have some items that we still send out. But when we added dry cleaning, it was because our partner was great. They were willing to go along with our conditions as far as the turnaround. They do an excellent job. So we definitely vetted them to make sure that they do a great job with the products. Rug cleaning as well. We outsource that. It's a local guy. We had him come and clean our house and our rugs first. And we very much keep an eye on the reviews, the product reviews. And if at any point we notice that they're not doing a top-notch job, then we would remove that from one of our services. We just added, and it's just now starting, is wedding gown preservation. And again, we're outsourcing that. Those are things that we don't have control over. And I think that's one of the trickiest things about adding those ancillary services. I, for one, can't think of anything that we've added where it hasn't been a success, where we took it off the market, but there's definitely been, it's a risk. I know you haven't been to our workshop yet, Jim, but we're very careful about outsourcing anything, because when you outsource any part of the process, any products, you lose control. And we're big on controlling, the quality, and our name is attached to that. Even though we outsource this, when they come to us for rug cleaning, it's got our Queen City Laundry brand attached to that. So we are very sensitive about attaching our name to anything that we outsource. So I don't know if Dave has more to say on that, but I can't think of any failures that we've had.
I think those go hand in hand, Jim. We've been in business for 16 years now. The first, gosh, 8, 9 years, we were basically self-serve laundromats with a little bit of dry cleaning. Maybe not the first 5. We were self-serve laundromats with a little bit of, I said dry cleaning, a little bit of drop-off laundry. And that was it, right? We didn't do dry cleaning. We shied away from all the services that we offer today. And Carla's exactly right. The reason we did is I always said, hey, I'm all about adding ancillary services to our business model when the time is right. Early on, we were unattended. In the first 2 years, we were unattended. Then we were kind of partially attended. Then we became fully attended. But the truth is, we had full-time attendance, but we weren't really that great at it, right? We weren't great at training. We weren't great at accountability, running a team. We were still learning how to do those things. And so we were very apprehensive to bring on new services because our team wasn't mature enough to handle them. And I think that what I would tell you is I can't think of anything we failed at other than like pickup and delivery. We obviously carved out way too big of a territory in the beginning. I'm pretty open about that. But the service we kept, we just tweaked the service. But Carla's exactly right. One of the things that I learned a long time ago in business, and I know a lot of other people that are successful in business, and they all agree on this principle, which is if you're going to outsource something, something in the supply chain, man, your partner better be at a minimum at the level you're at, if not above you, right? If not even more of an expert in that than you. And so we are very particular, even in Laundromat Millionaire, Joel and Larry, for example. I mean, we had other offers to offer other partners to offer an insurance program out there. And even with Brett, with Launder Boost, our marketing company, we had other offers out there to create a marketing company with other people that do digital marketing and things like that. And the truth is we're just very apprehensive. When we add something, we want to know that it's the right partner. We don't want to know that it's really going to bring value. And if anything, if we're outsourcing something like area rug cleaning, for example, we want our partner to step up and say, hey, we're an expert at this. Let us teach you how to do this right out of the gate so that you appear to be the expert that I am. Our area rug cleaning person, for example, has been doing this for 23 years. Like, of course, he knows more about area rug cleaning than we do, right? And so he
Yeah.
comes and teaches us the process. We created flyers and marketing and billboards and different things like that, and then we run them all by him and say, "Hey, anything we're missing here?" type of thing. So the truth is, it may sound a little arrogant that I can't think of anything that we have failed at, but I think that's because of our approach to partnerships, quote unquote. And that's what I think hopefully everybody can learn from that. The other thing I'll throw in there is because our approach is so diligent, we're very slow. We're very slow to add services. A lot of the services you see on our website, Jim, we haven't offered until the last like 3 years, right?
Okay.
Once we really, really got our team and our management structure and our operations and our SOPs and all those things really, really dialed in. And I think that's why we're adding things so quickly now. It's because now we kind of have a business model, if you will, as to how to outsource things. And how to do that complementary. She mentioned the dry cleaning. We have a great dry cleaning partner. They've been on the podcast. Great people, and we found another level of bringing the presso in house and offering next day service and same day service, where a dry cleaning partner can't keep up with our volume and offering that little level of service. So we didn't kick our dry cleaning partner to the curb. We just said, hey, there's another level to this that we keep getting requests for service. Our dry cleaning partner can't do it. Oh, check out this presso machine. And even with Presso, I mean, we talked to them for, gosh, over a year before we committed to the product, right before the clean show. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but the truth is I can't think of anything that we failed at, but I think that's kind of a sign as to our approach.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Jason, I see your
Jason.
hand up there.
Yeah. This was sort of a follow-up to that. It's interesting segue that Jim asked because, we're getting ready to open this first one, and the area that we're opening it in actually doesn't have a dry cleaner, and that's been one of the things that keeps getting asked over and over. Y'all going to do dry cleaning? Going to do dry cleaning? And so, like you, we really wanted to get our basics down before we start doing a lot of things, but that was going to be something early on that I was going to talk to you about and talk to some people that we know about. Do you generally, and I guess it's just a really high level question, is, and I know it can be done a million different ways, but do you basically just take a cut of what they charge, or do you work off some type of percentage or flat fee, or how do y'all structure that?
That's a great question, Jason. A lot of people struggle with this. I'm not real sure why. I think maybe we confuse each other in the Facebook groups and things like that. But it's actually really simple, right? Or it should be. When either you approach a wholesale dry cleaner, or a dry cleaner willing to do wholesale work, or they approach you, it's really only one question, right? Well, maybe two questions. The first one, what level of service do you provide? Right? Is this going to be similar to the Queen City Laundry way? What's your approach to business? Let's talk through this, what this looks like when we have an unhappy customer, and et cetera, which I think is pretty important. And then the second one is, if I'm going to wholesale with you, what are your wholesale prices? Right? My prices have nothing to do with their prices. They don't get to decide what price I charge. So I see things in the Facebook group that I'm not real sure if maybe I don't understand how other people are approaching it, or if I'm just approaching it uniquely. But to me, it's very simple. What my dry cleaner charges and what I charge are two completely different things. And so it doesn't make sense to me that people, and I think people are doing this, which is kind of weird. I think people are approaching a dry cleaner and saying, I'm going to charge this price. I'll give you 50% of it, or I'll give you 60% of it. Or maybe even the dry cleaners are approaching people and saying, hey, you can charge this price and we'll take 60% of it and you keep the 40. That might be what's happening, but to me, it's really pretty simple. Is our quality up to standard? And what is your wholesale price? And the
Okay.
reason I say that, so
But Dave, let's go one step, because me and you had this conversation about
yes,
pricing. You
yes,
should be charging the same 99 cents for a men's white shirt as for the Prada sweater,
hmm
because there's risks involved when there's a customer problem.
yep.
For
Just that.
example, I have a dry cleaner in a wealthy area of New York, and he has a whole price list per brand.
hmm
So if you're bringing your Coach jacket or your Prada sweater or your whatever pants, prices are completely different than just a men's shirt.
Yep.
And it makes a big difference, because that bag of, same 10 pounds of laundry or dry cleaning, it could be $3,000 in the bag, or they could be $100 in the bag. So why should you charge the same 99 cents a pound or whatever it is?
Yeah. Totally agree. And you may not agree on that philosophy, by the way, with your dry cleaner, which is why I kind of say, hey, my dry cleaner, tell me what your prices are. And if they say, hey, a Prada, whatever, which I don't even know what high expensive stuff is, but if they say, you know, you bring me I don't even know what brand, but a $3,000 jacket, you know, I'm not a suit jacket, you know, I'm not going to charge you $29.99. Right. I'm going to charge you $199.99. Right. And it costs them the same amount of money to process it, to clean the jacket. It's all about the liability, right? It's all about the risk of if I make a mistake, which we all make mistakes, I have to be baking that into the cake. Otherwise, I'd rather not take a $29.99 jacket that costs $3,000 to repair. Now, the reason this came up is our insurance. We just had a $10,000 claim on a mistake that was very honest and very simple. Just first time it's happened in 16 years in business. And me and Joel had a few conversations around it. And luckily Joel had set us up with the right insurance. And so we had coverage for this, and we didn't have to write a $12,000 check. The insurance company covered the claim. But that's me and Joel had a conversation after the fact, realizing it was covered. And we were both like, hey, wow, there's something to this. And he was telling me, yeah, my dry cleaning partners in New York are doing, you know, of course, I'm guessing even more high end things in New York. And he said they have multiple prices for, I guess, Joel, do you want to explain that real quickly to people, at least what you know of that process?
Yeah, so some of these high-end designers, and obviously the area you're in makes a difference, you know,
Mm.
what this does. I mean, Dave just happened to have an order that could have came off of Fifth Avenue in New York.
Yep.
Same type of products. The high-end manufacturers are putting RFIC codes in a lot of the tags. Your Prada, your Hermes, your whatever they are, those brands that my wife likes to buy that I don't approve of. Um, but anyway, you know, he has a price list of different items when it comes to brands. Let's say the average price of a Versace shirt is, you know, $800. So $800, you know, worth of a shirt, he might be charging $50 to clean that shirt, believe it or not.
Mhm.
I know I was at his shop when he had a skirt, some sort of skirt, that he was actually getting $300 to clean. But if he damages that skirt, it's a $3,000 skirt.
Mhm.
So there's no exact pricing, you know, formula, but you shouldn't be charging $1 for what you can get, you know, $20 for.
Yeah.
You know, if they're willing to spend $3,000 on a shirt and stick it in the bag and leave it on their stoop, then they're willing to pay you to clean it.
Yeah. And this is, I'll be honest with you, this is something I just learned literally a couple weeks ago from Joel and from their business partners. And I think it makes all the sense in the world. And it's changed how we process even drop off laundry. I'll give you a quick example. And I know this isn't part of your question, Jason, but we have a partner that is a local racing team. They're, I guess, semi-pro is probably what they are. They race like motorcycles and cars and things like that. And they have like the flame retardant uniforms that they wear, and they have their sponsors all over them. And I mean, they told us these things are over $1,000 per uniform, right? Well, they've been bringing these into us for 5 years, and we've been cleaning them at just a regular old 229 a pound. And every time they come in, I tell my store manager, they come to this one particular store, and I tell her, I'm like, that makes me so nervous, right? Like I'd almost rather not have the business. It makes me so nervous. Now, luckily in 5 years, we've never had any problems. We know how to launder them correctly. It's never been
Not
an
with
issue.
them, but we did just recently
Well,
have
that's
this
what,
other
no, that's
client.
we just told that story when you were off. Yeah, she stepped out.
Yeah, I had to run out and do.
Yep. But anyway, that has shifted my gear towards everything being very unique. So the reason I bring all that up is I think, you know, asking your dry cleaner, anything you're outsourcing, what is your wholesale price? And then the price that I charge is completely irrelevant to them. Now, my goal, which might be your question, Jason, my goal is to have a minimum of 50% margins. Okay. So pretty much everything I do for my dry cleaner, other than laundered shirts or a little bit under that, are 50% margins or higher. Now, I am starting to implement some of the things that Joel just talked about very slowly, and we're starting to put that list together of things that we're going to start telling people when they walk in with a cashmere sweat, you know, $800 cashmere sweater. Hey, we're not going to launder that for 15 bucks. You know, it's not worth the risk to us. We'd rather you turn around and walk away than to do business that way.
And I get 1% of all those sales.
Yeah, yeah, yep. So anyway, that's the way I think it should be approached. But if you are approached by a dry cleaner, I think sometimes the conversations happen in different ways. And in my opinion, what I charge has nothing to do with what my dry cleaner charges.
What about just throwing something out there? So, what about if they are also a dry cleaner competing in the same market? You're basically acting as a drop store for them. They might be less likely to do this service for you if you're going to be underpricing them.
Yep.
I know for us, so they basically have a 50% wholesale rate, and we double the price they charge us. So we're actually charging the same price they are because they are a dry cleaner in our market. We're basically acting as a drop store for them, but that keeps us from undercutting them as well. I don't know if that was purposeful when you sold it, but I could see where
Well-
that would be an issue for your dry cleaner if you're undercutting their,
Yes.
where they get their full profits.
I agree. When we first started wholesaling with them, which has been 7 years ago now, what Carla said was correct. Now, actually, in the last few years, we've changed that. We've raised our prices above their retail prices.
Okay. I didn't realize
And
that.
they were pretty happy about that, right? They're good people, but they're under the illusion we're competing on price, right? I'm under the illusion we're competing on value, right? As I tell everybody. So hopefully that answers your question. I see over in the comments, Austin says, I love the Dave AI. If you guys, that's great to hear. We've gotten that feedback from Jason, a couple other my coaching clients. That's fantastic to hear. If you guys aren't taking advantage of that, whether you're a current operator or a new operator or building a store, or you're trying to place a proper valuation on a store you're buying or something like that, that Dave AI is much more powerful than I ever thought it would be when we built it. And I'm continuing to go in and coach it all the time. So it's part of your community membership, part of what you're paying that $39.99 a month for. You get unlimited usage to that Dave AI. So take advantage of that. And if you have a problem, by all means, let us know. We want to fix it. We want to coach it up and make it better. But the feedback we've gotten early on is it's a pretty powerful tool. So
Well, and I know, so like members have the video gallery where you can search for episodes, but honestly, using the Dave AI is a lot more efficient use of your time because that Dave AI, part of what it's trained on are all of our like podcast episodes and all of our newsletters and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like a more efficient way of getting the information you need. Not that watching us for an hour is not a wonderful use of your time.
or at least Carla. All right. Jim, did you have your hand up or were you petting the cat?
Well, both probably.
Maybe both. I don't have any other questions so far. So if you got another one, we're happy to try to help. Keep them coming, guys.
Good, I do. On your wash machines, the manufacturer, I understand, was trying, or you had asked them, approached them to change it so that you could offer different automatic injection of laundry detergent.
Hmm.
I have same equipment, but a different name on it. And there's a real push in my town to get into less recyclable or less waste, more recyclables. So I've had some conversations with some people at my city that, even though that appears to be a fairly expensive system, that there may be some grant money available for me to consider that because of their total goal. Have you been successful in getting that through the manufacturer yet to change it so that if you push Tide, you can get Tide?
Unfortunately, not yet. Now, what I've been told the last time I talked to them, which was about 9 months ago, is that it was going to be Q1 of this year. Well, we're literally sitting
Be this week.
this week. Yeah, probably not. But that's what we were told about 9 months ago. I am very confident that they are working towards it. So there was a time where I started to wonder, am I just being blown off here, type of thing. But I've been given some very good data to prove that they are making progress. I think the progress maybe at least at one point a year ago, maybe wasn't quite as fast as they wanted it to be technologically. How close they are, I'm not sure. But I will tell you that I'm going to be reaching out to them this week and trying to get an update because, as you know,
Okay.
Q1 is kind of over at this point, pretty close to being over. And I've already got the Hydro system in. So as soon as they update those touch controls, I'll be able to inject up to 10 products into 10 different machines from one control panel. So I got to tell you, I've never thought about it from the perspective of a grant,
That
that
would be
type of
great.
situation. I'm going to bring that up to the folks at Hydro, and that's something I hadn't really considered, is all those plastic bottles we're saving, right?
Yeah, it's a real strong direction to go, I believe. And I kind of summarize it that somebody at the city wants a plaque to put on the wall behind where they sit.
Yeah.
And so they're willing to spend the money perhaps to help somebody that it's not really cost effective to put it in. I have a small store,
Yep.
but if it doesn't cost me anything, then it is very cost effective.
Yeah.
And I think it would work. Do you think it'll work well
Um,
once it's done?
Oh,
And
a lot of customers have
so
been
we're
already wanting us to have more products. So
yeah.
like I would be using it today if you had an all free and clear or whatever.
And you may not know this, Jim. We're already using it today. We've been using it for over 2 years. It's just the amount of products is what's limited. So right now we can only inject one detergent and one softener. That's the limitation. The software and the touch controls allows you to do one in one, but the hydro technology, the injection system, that allows up to 10. So right now they can basically choose one detergent or one softener, and it's a cycle modifier. It's an upcharge to them.
Mhm.
Bucks, extra buck, whatever type of thing. When Alliance gets the controls updated to reflect that, we'll be able to offer 6 detergents. And of course, what
Yeah.
Carla was mentioning is we've been hearing from the mountaintops for 2 years, which is, that's great that you have that. Well, our default is scented detergent, right? And the first thing we hear from everybody is, do you have unscented detergent? They don't even care what brand it is. They want to know if you just have the, all free and clear or something like that. And obviously people that are requesting that are not willing to use scented detergent for different
Correct.
reasons. So obviously some people are associated with, the brand names of Tide and Gain and Arm& Hammer and different companies like that. And some of them are like, oh, do you have Tide? Do you have Gain? We're like, well, we will, type of thing. But we're hoping that it's coming very soon. One thing I will tell you too, and I don't have any details on it, I know that Hydro specifically is really working hard to try to get their price down. I know they're doing all kinds of engineering changes and stuff like that because they're aware that it's a great technology and a lot of us would love to have it, but it is
Yeah.
cost prohibitive, and that negatively affects the ROI. Instead of 1 or 2 years, it takes 3 or 4 years type of thing. I know they're working on that. I don't know where they're at in that process.
Okay.
And one other thing I'll share that I don't have any inside baseball on, but I'd be shocked if um, other technology companies in the industry don't start offering a competitor's product to Hydro. We work with Hydro directly. The technology is amazing, but I think the industry as a whole, I know laundromat owners, I talk to them every day about this, and they all think it's a great idea, for many different reasons. You just brought up a unique one that I hadn't heard before. But as more and more of us laundromat owners say, hey, I really like the idea of that technology, but it's pretty expensive. What can we do about that? Just like anything in business, one person comes out with a great idea. It's a matter of months before 3 others come out with a similar competing product. And of course, that's going to drive the price down too, right? Competition
Yeah.
is going to drive the price down. So I am thoroughly convinced that whatever company you want to use is one thing. I'm thoroughly convinced that direct injection for self-serve purposes, which is what we're talking about here, is absolutely going to revolutionize our industry. It's
I
just
believe so too. Yeah.
when do we get some competition, and when do we get the cost down a little bit? I think that's the key factor in how competitive it's going to be, and how cost effective for us owners it's going to be. And then of course the cost is one thing, but and I've told Hydro this for years, but they can't do anything about Alliance. I said, man, I can justify the cost a lot more if I can sell 10 products, right? But if I can only sell one detergent, everybody that wants free and clear, they just still pour it out of the cap, right?
Yep.
And they know that, they agree with that, but they've pushed Alliance about as far as they can. So that's where we're at right now as an industry. But I think big things are coming, and sometimes a company comes out with a new technology, everybody's enamored with it. It really never catches steam because of the competitive advantages or the cost or the ROI or things like that. And then next thing you know, behind the scenes, a bunch of different companies are working on things saying, hey, yeah, I think Hydro's got something there type of thing. And next thing you know, it explodes. So it wouldn't
Right.
shock me at next year. And I don't, like I said, I don't know anything, but it wouldn't shock me if next year's clean show or maybe even the next clean show, which would be 3 years from now. It wouldn't shock me if doesn't become as common as extra wash and extra rinse, right? Somebody came up with that technology for us to charge for an extra wash bath and an extra rinse bath, and then
Yeah.
everybody in the industry copied them. I'm not sure who was first. You guys might know, but I don't know who it was. But everybody else copied them, and it's been a game changer for the industry. So I
Thank
think
you.
that's where we are. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, what else do we have? We still got plenty of time, man. 30 minutes just flies by. Carla's having to jump back in and out because we're getting a package delivery. In case you're wondering where she's going. Yeah, Danae, go ahead.
So
Good to see a friendly face. I hope you make it home okay.
we did. Um, so as I was just at the pickup and delivery workshop, which was fantastic, by the way. So, of course, your mind comes home with like changes, right? And you see the where you don't have redundancy, where you better get it figured out now before it's an emergency.
Right. Right.
Um, so working through some of that, but right now, my original store we process a lot of drop-off orders, a lot. My employees that are there, my free employee time, they process a lot of orders.
Good.
And there are some of the things that you guys do that I was like, oh, that could be helpful. That could be right. So there's some changes that I want to make to the process that has been ingrained in them. And I'm just wondering, any advice that you have on how to steer that ship and how to get them excited, the team excited about why we make some changes, like dumping out all of the laundry in whatever bag it comes out, because then I can much more easily see if the green hoodie actually was there, right? And like, we don't have them spin the drum. I was like, brilliant. I don't know how I'm going to get them in that habit of spinning the drum both times. So I would love some sage advice on
Yeah.
that.
So it really, I mean, it really comes down to two things for the most part. It's reinforcement, right? It's positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, right? So I would start with a positive. I don't know what your pay structure is and all that. You don't have to explain that to us right now, but
They don't get paid per pound at all. So I think that that could be a fun um, incentive for them.
Yeah.
And they can lose their bonus if they
That's
don't
right.
spin
That's
the
the
drum
negative.
and dump
Yep.
the,
I would
you know.
start with a positive for sure. I would certainly
Okay.
try not to overwhelm them. I don't know your business model specifically, but try to
Mhm.
find the positives. What I would do to start with, let me back up a little because you have two stores that are, well established, a couple years. The first thing I would do is at one store, right? I would not try to do this at both stores.
Okay.
At one store, I would have a team meeting. And I would explain to them, hey, I just went to this workshop. I spent 2 days there. We were from 8 a.m. to midnight. This is absolutely amazing. I came up with all kinds of amazing ideas from operators. And you don't have to say who it is because they don't care, but just people have been doing this for 20 years, blah, 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 right? You're trying to get them excited, right? And then you say, here's a couple things, a couple low-lying fruits that are wins for them that are going to get them excited. A bonus structure, if you don't have one, and showing them, you don't have to use our exact structure, but something that shows them that if they produce more, they're going to make more money, right? That's where I would start with it. And I don't know how big your team is, but I would make sure that that is implemented and that that is absorbed into their brains. Now, I wouldn't wait quarters or years, but I might wait a month, a couple months, let that settle in. And in that initial meeting where you tell them, hey, I went to the workshop, there's going to be a lot of great things coming down the pike over the next year. I don't want to overload you with everything at once, right? But here's a couple things that I want to do right off the bat that I think you guys are going to be excited about. That's that positive reinforcement. And at that meeting, when you implement their bonus, I would implement the negative reinforcement right there too. Mainly because that's holding them accountable, right? And one thing that I've learned about building a substantial team in the industry is every team, no matter how good and bad as it is, it has your weakest player and it has your what I call butt kickers, right? Your absolute rock stars, right? And then you usually have a few in the middle. The people that are your weakest players, they don't want accountability, right? And so you're going to weed them out very naturally. You're going to weed them out. And when you weed them out, you're going to keep the good people, right? The rock stars and even the middle of the road people. You're going to keep those people, and that's your foundation, right? Now you're going to go replace the weak players. And when they come in, they're going to come into the new, whatever your company is called, Danae's Laundromat, right? They're going to come into the new company and they're going to hear about the bonus structure in their interview. And they're going to learn about it from their team in day one. And they're going to never have known a world where Danae's Laundromat didn't have these things in place. And so the people that are butt kickers, that are excited, that are benefiting from this, they're going to get the call, right? They're going to get the call to action. And what you're going to do is create a whole new culture in a very short period of time. Now, I don't know your team. If your team is 80% weaklings, well, then, you might want to be careful with that too, right? Probably not, but I mean, if you know you're going to lose a large portion of your team, you may want to take a little bit more measured approach because we know we can't afford to lose, 8 out of 10 people right off the bat. But that's the high level. Carla, from a teaching perspective, might have a different perspective there. But that's what I would do if I were you, and then I would slowly and surely start to implement the minutia. Right? I'd get them excited. I'd hold them accountable, the spin the drum, those type of the bonuses, those type of things, and then all the details and minutia I would slide in there as best I can. I would tell them more is coming, but I don't want to overwhelm you.
So my take, I agree with everything Dave said. One thing I wanted to add to that is, I know you said you have a lot of wash, dry, fold, a lot of drop off laundry. The principles that you saw that we use for pickup and delivery, because we have decent wash, dry, fold, but not so much that our attendants can't do it. If you actually have that much, all the principles of our third shift processing can apply to wash, dry, fold. So my thought is, if you have enough to warrant it, actually adding a new position. So maybe like right now, your laundromat has 2 attendants there all the time because you're busy and you have a lot of wash, dry, fold. Instead, doing 1 attendant that's in charge of cleaning the store, customer service, and they can even stay on the same thing that your current principles are, and creating a whole new position for them, which is the processor, if you have enough to warrant it. And sometimes that's also a mental shift for them of who on my staff would like to apply for this new position. And by making it a whole new position, they're okay with it having all new rules and SOPs, all new processes. And so that's another way of kind of segregating out. We're not doing it the way we did before. You're not even in the same job or same position you were in before. This is a new position where you don't wear a uniform. If you remember our second shift processors, when you came to the laundromat, there were a few finishing up there, but our second shift processors, which would what your wash, dry, fold people would be basically. So they're there when customers are there. You have to be careful that they don't use too many machines where it's not upsetting your self-serve, but they are not there for customer service. And they're the ones that you're tracking on. Are they sticking to the 30 pounds per hour and all that kind of stuff? And that's where you can implement all those new things, but they're going to get a whole new bonus structure with that too. Remember, they have a different base wage. They have a different way that you bonus them based on their speed and all that kind of stuff that you learned in the workshop. So that would be, if you have enough to warrant actually doing a processor position, that might help you implement those changes too, because it's a new position. They're more okay with, this has different job description. This has different guidelines. So I was just going to add that to it.
Super helpful. Thank you.
I think it's a great point. I'll add one more thing. If we have any other questions, we still got about 20 minutes left. There was a time, Danae, when we didn't have all this figured out, right? Things were a complete
And we're still
hot mess.
figuring stuff out.
Well, for sure. We're always optimizing. But there was a time where things were kind of a hot mess and we were figuring a lot of things. I had an existing team that had come in and been hired under the premise of, this is the job. This is there was no accountability, but this is the pay, right? And this is what we do, and this is how we do it. And it was kind of a hot mess. Now I'm guessing you're a little more organized than we were initially, but if not, one of the things I did is I sold to them basically what we're doing right now. We're losing money as a company, right? Any employee knows that any company that's losing money is going to be around very long, right? And so fast forward, I changed their pay structure when I was trying to figure out this formula that we've now taught you. I changed their pay structure 5 times in 9 months.
I heard.
Yeah. And did Marlene or somebody tell you? Yeah. I mean, it was the maybe it was
not happy.
It was the only time in 14 years of working for me, I thought I might actually lose Marlene.
Yes, that's what she said.
Yeah, she was like, this is absolutely freaking crazy. And you know what? I told her then, what you might need to tell your team right now. I will fully acknowledge that I don't know what I'm doing. Right now, and you have a plan, right? I didn't have a plan. Mine was just keep changing things till I hit on something that works. And so, I mean, at our last meeting, or let me correct that, at our second to last meeting, I had figured out some things. And I literally sat in front of the same people that had stuck it out with us for about 6 months. And I changed their pay structure, hourly and bonus structure, 3 times in probably a 6-month period of time. Talk about being done. They're like, oh, we're having another pizza meeting. This can't be good type of thing. And I literally, I mean, I'm not kidding. I literally had tears running down my eyes. And I said, guys, I'm just going to be very frank with you. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. But what I do know is we can't keep doing what we were doing before. because no one's making money, right? You guys are making a little bit of money, but you're not really doing well. The company is losing money. I was just very authentic with them. And I said, I'm going to keep changing this and tweaking this until I figure it out. And when I figure it out, I will commit to you one thing. It will be a win-win. We'll both win, right? You're not going to have to lose at the expense of the company, but the company has to make money or you're not going to have a job. And I told them I own 4 laundromats. They're all very successful without pickup and delivery. So if I can't figure this out, I'm just going to sell all the trucks. I'm going to shut this whole thing down and I'm going to go back to being a laundromat guy, right? Which I talked about in every workshop we do, the retreat function, right? I was as close to that as anyone has ever been. So I don't know how bad things are for you. You might be, making money, but not a lot or something like that. I mean, I don't know the story you have to tell them, but I think that's really important. And for us, it was a very drastic story. And I was very authentic about it. And at our 4th meeting, I had figured out a few things, but I still had another change to make and I knew it. And I literally told everyone that I think we had 9 people working 3rd shift plus Marlene. And I looked them all in the eyes. We ate pizza for like I said, the 10th time in a row. And I said, guys, if every one of you got up and walked out right now, I wouldn't blame any of you. I really wouldn't have. I mean, I was hoping they stuck, but I told them the same thing in that meeting. I said, but if you'll stick around, I'm getting closer, right? I'm making progress, but I know these changes make it appear like the company has no idea what we're doing.
And
that's
it
because we
doesn't.
don't. I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just trying to eat elephant one bite at a time. And I did tell him, I said, I know you may not see it from your end, but every time I take a bite of this elephant, we do get a little bit closer, right? Not just shooting in the dark. We are making some progress, but we're just not there yet. And I think in the 3rd or 4th meeting, I even told him, I said, good news, guys, we're not losing money anymore. But the bad news is we're just breaking even, and a business isn't here to, lose money or to break even. We're here to make money.
And
Right?
that was all about the reason we do our workshop. And
For sure.
we told you in the beginning,
100%.
it was figuring out that balance between getting the right people in there and getting them to be fast enough, because that's where it eats up your cost.
That is why we do coaching to this day. That is why we do the workshops. It's why we're so passionate. I tell all you guys this, at the end of the day, business shouldn't be easy, but it shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
What I had to go through, it should not be that hard. Like it just shouldn't. So I know we have a few other questions.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was helpful today.
Thank you guys.
You'll have something, Jason?
Well, all right, I'll ask this question. It's a segue, but a little bit of a pivot on that. It was a question I was going to ask Dave when we have our call here in a couple of days, but I'll just ask it here. And Dave, if you want to kick it down for us to talk about later, if it's too much of a rookie question,
Sure.
and I'm wasting everybody's time, it won't hurt my feelings. But of course, the final answer is making sure that you have the right team and the right people. That's the answer to everything. But as we all know, that's a process. And how do you, this question came up the other day, especially with drop off laundry, the wash and fold. How do you prevent an unscrupulous, because all you gotta have is motive and a need in an individual, and they'll steal from you. We don't want to think about that, but the class of person doesn't really matter. So how do you keep people from, let's say you got a $100 bag of laundry coming in, an employee from just telling somebody, I'll tell you what, I'll do it for 50, and you just leave it here. What is y'all's procedure, or what's your SOP to keep that from happening or minimizing it?
Yeah. One of the greatest things to minimize it is most of the software platforms now, when you check an order into the software, it also tracks what machine you're using. And there's a variable there. And most of the software companies will kind of tell you like, hey, this variable's off, right? It was 40-pound laundry. They started an 80-pound machine. Something doesn't make sense here, or the opposite is true, right? Now, when it truly comes to keeping it completely off the books, that's really more, and you haven't been to our workshop yet, but I touch on it in the workshop, what I call active management, right? And for those of you that have been there, you remember me talking about that. Your manager should sniff that out, right? There should be audit functions in place, whether it's, let's say, for example, you have a till of quarters, which we used to have years ago, which they used to start the machines,
Now
Okay.
the software can start the machine. So
Correct.
there's a record of it.
Yeah. So the short answer, and we can go into more detail in the coaching call, Jason, but the short answer is that you should have different audit functions, including camera systems, including active management. However you start your machines, there should be alarm bells going off there. But the truth is, and I know most of you that are experienced business owners are going to agree with this, if somebody wants to steal bad enough from you, they're going to steal, right? You've been in business forever, right? You know they're going to steal. And what I always tell my team is I can't stop people from stealing. My goal is to catch them as close to the first time as possible, right? And that way, as soon as I know that they're a thief, they got to go. And then the next thing we have a weekly leadership meeting every 2 weeks. Me, Marlene, and Carrie, our GM and our assistant GM, we have a weekly leadership meeting. Every time someone steals from us, we examine the process and we go back and look at the data and we say, how did they steal? How long did it take them to catch us? And why did, or you know what I mean? And why didn't we catch it sooner? Right. And basically what I'm doing is I'm challenging our SOPs, our processes, and saying, is there a better way to do this? Right. And so at the end of the day, I don't think you can stop them, but you absolutely can put multiple audit functions in place that would, keep it to a minimum. I don't want to say keep it from happening, but there's definitely a bigger conversation. Let's have that in your next coaching call. Okay. I know we got a couple other questions.
And Michael was the next one that had his hand up.
Michael, if you want to unmute yourself or just type it. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey guys.
Hey, how are you?
Michael?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So I have a marketing question, I guess, or I'm trying to grow delivery, right? I guess what would you focus on, after you get, your website's decent, my, Google business is decent. We have good reviews. I guess should I be focusing on, meta ads or, I know I do Google ads too. What do you recommend for a budget for that? But that's like a black hole. You could throw $1 million at it and not really see anything. I feel like Google ads, I don't love, but, I guess my question is, what should I be focusing on after I have those core things?
Well, one thing jumped out to me, and maybe it's just semantics, Michael, but you said that, my website's okay. What'd you say? My Google business profile's okay.
Yeah.
I would want those things to be better than okay, right?
Okay.
Especially your website. I would want it to be amazing. And you don't have to spend $10,000 on a website for it to be amazing, right? I want it to do its job, right? There's the organic side of the website, which is the SEO and things like that. And then there's the sales copy side of the website, right? And there is no point. I mean, you guys know we own a marketing company. There is no point in hiring any marketing company to drive customers into your store or to your website for pickup and delivery if those are not fully optimized. Now, perfection doesn't exist, right? But if they're not at a level that is going to convert customers, then this is pointless. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I had Laundry Boost
Yeah.
make my website. So
Yeah.
the website's good.
Okay.
You
Good.
know, I'm
doing
sure it
the-
could be better, but
You did the Google Business Booster with them as well, which is
yeah.
good, organic, and you're doing some Google ads, right? So you're kind
Yeah.
of doing all the right things. I know one of the more affordable things to do is the Facebook retargeting, just because those are warm leads. They're people that it automatically gets people that have already like shown interest in your services. So I know Brett always says that that's one of the best ways to spend your money, which it's a little better than Google because Google tends to be a little colder. And more
So
expensive.
retargeting people that have done what?
That have visited your site.
That have clicked on
Okay.
your-
That
So
have
the-
That
clicked
have
on
visited the
your ad.
website?
Yeah, I know you're still early on. I forget how far along you are, but when clients first come to any marketing company, the first thing they have to do is drum up some interest, right?
Right.
Now, there's interest out there in Google and things like that. But when people when people are searching for, let's say, laundry delivery near me or something like that, right? And your ad comes up, they might click on the ad. They might even go to the website. They might even read the ad. That doesn't mean they converted into a paying customer, right?
Right.
What our data shows us is they have to do some semblance of that 4 to 13 times before they convert, right? The lower end of people might convert on the second or third, the first time they hear about Michael's laundry delivery service, but then there's people on the other end of the spectrum too. The good news is once they've clicked on your ad even one time, we now have their data, we have their information, and we can retarget them, right? And those retargeting ads are much, much, much cheaper. To give you an idea, it's about $5 for a Google ad in most markets. depending on how much competition you have. Retargeting is usually about 5 cents, right, per
Or
impression.
bang for your buck.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the bad news is you have to run the Google ads and you have to get the customers and you have to collect their data before you can retarget them because you don't know who they are, right? And you retarget them in clusters, right? You're targeting by impressions of 1,000 impressions at a time.
Right.
So you can't just start retargeting right off the bat because you don't have anybody's data, right? You have to collect that data first. And then the last thing I'll tell you is it's a slow process, right? And I've told you this from the very beginning, right? It's a slow process. You can find some commercial accounts. They're fantastic. They can be, a lot of volume really quickly, but it's a double-edged sword because as quickly as they come and they, double your gross business, they can leave just as quickly and business goes down by 50%, right? So they're good to have, no doubt about it. They tend to be lower margins, not always, but a lot of times. But when we talk about the process we just went through with residential and small business customers, which you remember this from the workshop, for those customers, I mean, when you can attract any 20 of them to your customer base at any one time. And the odds that, they're going to be a recurring customer are about 20 to 25%, right? So if we attract 100 of them to our customer base and they use us at least one time, our data shows us only about 20 or 25% are going to be recurring customers. And that's where our profit is made, is in that not only the acquisition, which you have to pay for all 100 customers to acquire them, and you lose money typically on the customers that only use you one time. It's keeping the customers over and over again.
The ones that stay, do you have like an LTV, lifetime value?
Oh man, we have
They vary so much.
We have some that are 6 figures.
Yeah, because they've been with us since the beginning.
We literally have some people who've been with us since the first 6 months we opened, and they've been using us weekly or biweekly for 9 years.
Yeah.
Right. But that's a small percentage of them,
It's
no?
very small.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
if it were a big percentage, I wouldn't be on the call with you today. I'd be on a beach.
I was
Right.
mentioned, so I know Laundry Boost has just started a B2B email campaign. It's kind of AI driven where they send out kind of cold emails to different businesses and that helps build that commercial side. And you can look into that with Brett if you want. But if you have the time, but not the money, you can do some of that guerrilla marketing thing.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
as annoying as cold calling is, it actually does work. If you can target some of those small businesses that they have linens, like some of those salons, gyms, small restaurants, whatever, that have those linens, that linen service, those are easy to process because it's usually just towels, napkins, whatever. But do some cold calling or cold emailing if you can get the right contacts. Another thing is you can target some like apartment buildings or even like nursing homes where you could have a bunch of clients in one area. And you can talk to, if you can find out the property owner or property manager, like, hey, would you be willing when you sign a new lease or whatever, would you be willing to give them this pamphlet or even offer a discount for their building? And hey, you can advertise that you have laundry services. You can do that too at a hotel. Would you like to advertise laundry services for your hotel guests? So anything that you can do, those are some of those guerrilla techniques. It don't cost money. They cost you time. But as long as you can identify clusters of your ideal avatar, go after them any way you can.
Right.
So be a salesman.
Yeah. I know we have a
Yeah.
couple other questions
Thank
we
you.
want to get to, Michael. The other thing I'll throw out there for you is, I mean, all the things we're talking about are all effective, but the truth is almost all of them take time.
They do.
And it's so frustrating because none of us are patient. We get a van, we get it wrapped, we put the shelves in, want to fill that thing up with laundry, right?
Yeah.
And I constantly remind people, when you come to the workshop, what you're looking at is a 10-year business, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to be there in year one. I hope you are. Operationally, I can help you a ton, but when it comes to growth, you just have to pay the piper. So even
Yeah.
the guerrilla marketing tactics and things like that, I mean, they are effective. If you talk to people that are really committed, they do work, but man,
They're not
you know,
easy.
well, they're not easy to do because not too many people will hear no 99 times to get one yes, right? Where the one yes pays for the 99 no's.
Right.
That's what makes someone that's good at cold calling special and
Right.
skilled and really good at what they do.
I think part of it for me right now is also it's like I'm like borderline busy enough to like start growing a team, but like like adding another person, but I'm not there yet. And then it's like then it's a slow week, and then I'm like, oh, now I'm really not there. But then it's busy, and I'm like, oh, I need more people.
Uh-huh.
And it's like I'm like right on the edge, and it's just like frustrating.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You're in the scale phase, my friend.
Yeah.
I know Jim
Okay.
had
Thank
Jim,
you.
your hand
Yeah, you
up.
got it.
What was
And
your
I know what I
question,
want to get to
Jim?
Craig.
And then we
too.
have Craig
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I had my hand up, but I thought I'd make sure Craig had a chance to ask his question.
Okay, Craig, you want to go first then?
Yeah. Hey, thanks, guys. It's
Yeah.
been a while since I've been in here, just been so busy. And Michael, I'm in the growth phase also. We're 2 years and it's a slow slog. I want an exponential, but it's more of just a continuous growth. My question surrounds expenses and how to reduce them. We're looking at the P&L and hyper focusing on expenses right now. And I'm going through line item by line item and anything that's not needed, attempting to jettison it. Well, one of the biggest one is the payroll. By far, payroll is what we're spending the most on. Now, Dave, you're probably going to be upset with me, but as of 2 weeks ago, we are now tracking the production rates on our attendants, but we hadn't done that to date. And it's been very surprising just by having our attendants write down how much pounds they did, how much time it took them. It's so surprising on how quick things are being folded now as compared to before. We have some
Wait, you
numbers
mean
that have come.
accountability works, Craig?
Yeah,
You,
I don't know, but magically, what was 16, under 16 pounds an hour is now
uh-huh.
up over like 50 in some
Oh,
areas.
Maybe
wow.
you're afraid of
There
being
you
replaced by
go.
a robot.
Yeah. And the robot's fine, but it's not, I mean, it can't do
Not
everything. It
fast
does the
enough.
tells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is something we've implemented, and that will, I can potentially shave, with all my account, maybe about 3,000 off the monthly
Uh-huh.
payroll. The question is mostly around the topic of payroll and watching where we can help there. I haven't gone after the drivers yet. When I asked Michelle, hey, can we shrink routes? Can we put them all in one? She's like, no, it needs to stay, everything needs to stay as it is. But what was your approach? I mean, both for attendants and drivers to be more efficient so that Craig doesn't write a check, this massive check of payroll every 2 weeks. It shrinks down and is smaller. That's
Yeah.
basically the question. All of the
Great.
other expenses I can go after. This
Sure.
is one that it feels like it's a lever that can be controlled,
Oh, again,
and
it is.
we're not very good at it yet.
Yep. Well, just like working out, you work out that muscle enough and you'll get a big bicep, right? I mean, you're just keep practicing it. That's the key. I want to say a couple things, and I know we're limited on time, but I'm going to go over a little bit. If you guys need to go, by all means, leave. But I think this is worth diving into for 5 or 10 minutes. The first thing that I always stress to all of my coaching clients is don't ever cut expenses at the detriment of your business, right? Of the long-term business, right? And I'm not saying you are, Craig. I'm just throwing that out there as like a caveat. Even when we get tight financially, it's very easy to cut. And if it's very difficult to cut your way to profitability, right? In any business, any successful business owner will tell you that, right? And so it's a panic mechanism that's very real. I mean, if you don't have the money to pay payroll, by all means, you need to cut people, right? And if that's where you're at, then there's really only ways to the two main levers to pull. One of them is, free labor. And I'm not talking about the attendants, although we can talk about that. I'm talking about the owner working in the business without taking a salary, right? Meaning if you can't afford to pay someone to do the laundry, then you got to go in and do the laundry, right? That's one lever that you can pull. And of course, it's obviously a temporary lever. Nobody wants to stay there forever, but it's a lever that you can pull if you're, literally having trouble making payroll. The other side of it is efficiency, which you've already done. You just said you did wait, you did it 2 weeks ago. I wish you would have done it 2 months ago, but you're here now. And the good news is, I mean, if you're giving me really data points of these people were doing 50 pounds an hour and now they're doing 50, meaning 15 is what you said, and then 50, like your payroll should show that literally the next pay period. If
Yeah, it was, so it included all the cleaning, just how much did Craig pay hours versus how many pounds went through the laundry on wash, dry, fold, pick up and delivery and commercial. And it
Okay.
was 16.8 pounds per hour.
Wow.
It's a very high level and includes the whole kitchen sink of everything the attendant does. So
Uh-huh.
now we're going after any place the attendant gets off the folding table. We're gonna, like we're currently vending machines with the POS, that's gone. Anything that pulls them away. that's efficiencies we're going after. And the 50 is cherry picking. That was an order of towels.
Okay.
So, but we're seeing numbers above 30, 30.
Okay.
So
Well,
you keep
if
saying attendant. Are you using
was just getting
only
ready to go
attendants
there.
versus
Yeah.
processors? If you remember from the workshop, because
Right.
our attendants, their number one priority is customer service. So we're honestly not upset if their rates are in the 16s, because that's not really what they're being paid for. They get a little bonus for it. They are there for cleaning and customer service. If we want efficient processing, we bring in a processor, dedicated processor where they are averaging 45 pounds per hour.
And I would
Because-
guess, I'm going to interrupt, Carla.
ahead.
I would guess, Craig, that you're in a similar situation to Michael, meaning there's a time in the scale phase. And for those of you that have been in the workshop, you'll follow this. There's a time in the scale or the growth phase where you've grown enough to need more people, but you haven't grown enough to really build a third shift processing team, right? You don't have a team. What you have is a team of attendants, and a lot of them are doing laundry, right? And they're not a processor, they're an attendant, but they're not doing 30 pounds an hour, but they're watching the store. And sometimes you need 3 of them at one night, and they're all 3 kind of watching the store, and they're all 3 kind of being processors, right? That's a very common thing. And what I encourage you to do is the second you outgrow on any one shift, the second that you outgrow that attendant, and if you remember, an attendant processes laundry at about 20 pounds an hour. Okay. That's what we hold them accountable to. The attendant, customer service first, cleaning second, processing laundry third. And remember, they can stagger those. They can put a load of laundry in the washer, and while the washer runs for 30 minutes, they can go clean the bathroom, right? They're doing 2 tasks at one time, but you have to train them to do that. They can't go clean the bathroom and then come get a load of laundry, put it in the washer, and then sit there and wait on the washer for 30 minutes and say, I don't have any cleaning to do. Does that make sense? So in the silo of the attendant, that's the first thing to do. On any one shift, it could be a 4-hour shift. Anytime you outgrow the labor for that one attendant and you need to bring in a second, I'm going to call it an attendant for a second, I'm going to stop you and say that's not an attendant, that's a processor. Right?
And now suddenly
They
the
should
attendant
not.
might do no laundry.
That's
But
exactly
the
right.
processor, remember, they're doing multiple loads at a time. Where an attendant's usually doing like one load, they put it in the washer, they're cleaning, meeting the needs of the customers.
Exactly
A
right.
processor is doing several loads at a time because that is their dedicated job while they're
And that,
there.
if you remember from the workshop, processing anywhere from 175 to 250 to 300 pounds in a shift, depending on the length of the shift, it makes them more efficient, right? And it gets them up into that 35, 40, 45, 50 pounds per hour, but they're also not cleaning. They're not doing customer service. They're not even wearing a uniform. They're in street clothes, right? You don't even want them to look like they work there for the most part, type of thing. Is that coming back to you a little bit from the workshop?
Yeah,
Craig?
absolutely. We do not have processors. Everyone is an attendant.
Okay.
And
So
they handle the street that comes in.
So that may be a big part of your problem, okay? Because I want to correct you. They may be an attendant in your payroll, right? It says attendant in
Yes.
PDP or whatever. But if you have more than one of them working in a shift in tandem, one of them is no longer an attendant. They're a processor.
So we should say street clothes for that person, get
That's
them out of the eyes of the public, they focus.
That's exactly right. And what you do is you have to train them this way, right? I know you're an attendant, but I'll give you an example. We do this still not every night, but we do this still to this day as a form of redundancy, right? If we have somebody call off or short staffed on third shift or whatever, we'll bring in a second attendant. And that second attendant, they've already been trained this way, but they know an attendant gets paid $14 an hour, and they get 20 cents a pound, or I'm sorry, 10 cents a pound for the laundry they do, plus their tips, right? And then they also get, they are also responsible for customer service and cleaning and processing of laundry. And they're held accountable to 20 pounds an hour if we have the laundry for them to do, right? That's this position. And whoever is the attendant tonight, they're the only one responsible for that store. If we bring in a second attendant to work on, what is today? Wednesday? What is today? Tuesday? Monday.
Today is Monday.
I lose track of the days of the week. If they come in Monday, right? If a Carla comes in and I'm coming in and I'm the attendant, I'm the scheduled attendant. When Marlene calls Carla in for the night, she's calling her in as a processor. Carla knows that, Marlene knows that, and I know that, which means I know Carla's not helping with customers. That's not her job. She's not cleaning the store. Short of an emergency, she's not helping in any way. She is only doing laundry, but she's paid at a different pay structure, right?
Remember
For
the
that shift.
$16 an hour,
Remember the
20 cents
16?
per pound, over 30 pound minimum.
They want to be dedicated as a processor. They get $2 more and $2 more an hour automatically, and they get a bigger bonus structure, and they have one responsibility, which is processing laundry, right? And what you can have to do is teach these people. I mean, we literally have them. We have had situations where having an attendant work like 12 to 4, and then we needed them to do second shift processing. We literally had them clock out. They clock back out, clock back in under a different employee code, which is a processor for the same person. And they will literally get 2 paychecks from the same company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Michelle, for those you don't know, is his partner in this business. I'm sure she has more to add, Michelle.
So we're starting to do that right now. So what is happening is when we're overlapping the second person, they are acting in an attendant role, and my lead attendant is not telling them not to. So that's one thing that we're about to change. Is when they get called in, all they do is laundry. So we're changing that a little bit. So we don't quite have processors. We still call them attendants because they're still in their purple shirts because they overlap the lunch hour. So when my attendance goes to lunch, the processor that we called in becomes the attendance for that 30 minutes. So we still keep them in their shirts, but that's the first thing. I just talked to my lead attendant today. That's going to change. So all they do is just processing, and they don't help.
Are you compensating them differently depending on if they are a processor? Or see, that's part of the problem, because when we started, that was why we were losing money, is we tried to pay our processors as if they were attendants, and then they were not motivated to be fast.
They behaved like an attendant.
Yes. The way you get your costs down for wash, dry, fold, and delivery is with speed of processing, because your processing is your biggest cost. And right now, your normal pay, your base rate, and you get 10 cents a pound for anything you process, does not motivate them to be fast. I mean, Craig motivated them a little bit by having them to write it down. That helped some, but if you switch to the other pay rate, the processor pay rate, that's what we found motivates them with pay to be fast.
But I'll stress this too. They have to know that their responsibility, the store attendant doesn't tell them whether to help a customer or not help a customer. You tell them that, right? Whoever the manager is, even if you're not there, even if you're at home, when you call them in or somebody calls them in, when you call them in and cover tonight, hey, you're not going to be an attendant. Sally's going to be the attendant, right? And they both need to know what that means. You're going to be a processor. Okay. Now, right now, they probably wouldn't know what that meant. You need to have a meeting with all of your team and explain this to them and say, hey, one night you might do this. One shift you might do this. And then another shift you might do this. This is why they look different, and it's important. And you just tell them for accountability's sake. And by the way, we're going to pay you differently, right? And I don't want to pay you to be a processor and you be me and hold you accountable to 30 pounds an hour, and then have you giving change to the customer at the counter or mopping the floor, right? Well, that's not fair either. You'll probably never get to 30 pounds an hour if you're cleaning the bathroom, right? So I mean, it goes on both sides of the equation, but it starts with training and communication, and us all speaking the same language.
One of the things with the tracking, it's like it literally doubled. And it also, we're about to let go of one other person because she took 30 minutes to load 2 small bags. So I'm just like, you can't fold really quickly when you can't load.
Yep.
When you're, so that's,
Yep. Well, when you're
we are.
When you're training them, there are some and you'll remember this from the workshop, there are some correlations, right? When I'm training an attendant to be an attendant, I'm training them to stagger their orders around their other responsibilities, right? Which is customer service and cleaning, right? So I'm telling them, if you have the bathroom to clean, don't clean the bathroom and leave a drop-off order sitting in the cart behind the window, right? No, take that order and put it in a washing machine. Get the washer going. Let's say the washer takes 28 minutes to run. While that washer is running, go clean the bathroom. Now you're multitasking, right? You're taking advantage of that mechanical action in the machine, and you're also cleaning the bathroom at the same time. You do the same thing with the dryer. You train them that way. When you're also training them that way, you say, oh, and by the way, there's a correlation for a processor too, right? If you're a processor, you don't have other responsibilities, meaning customer service and cleaning. But what you do have is other responsibilities and other orders, right? Typically, when you're an attendant, you're usually not doing more than one order at a time. You could, but typically, if you're responsible for the store and for customer service and cleaning, you're usually only doing one order at a time. When you shift to become a processor for even this shift, right? They have to shift their mentality and say, my job is now to stagger my responsibilities. Well, as a processor, my responsibilities is 4, 5, 6, 7 orders, right? And you remember that from the workshop, you're going to stagger those. Remember how we take one order, get it in the washer, and hit start as fast as possible. Why? That starts that mechanical action. The machine is washing the clothes while I'm loading the second machine, right? And I load the third machine, I load the fourth machine, I load the fifth machine. And then by the time my fifth or eighth order is done, I go back to machine number one and it's done, right? And I move it to the dryer. And then I move the second one to the dryer and the third one to the dryer. The concept is the same if you're all following me. And I'm sure I'm losing people that haven't been at the workshop. But if you've been to the workshop, you understand what I'm saying. The staggering of the order process that's where all of our efficiencies come from. And that can be for an attendant and that can be for a processor. And it could even be in the same day. But you have to train them. I think Michael posted it somewhere. Same employees, train them for both positions, show them the nuances, the positions, and then teach them the lingo, right? When I call you in as an attendant, this is what an attendant means. When I call you as a processor, even Sally is there as an attendant. You're not an attendant. I know you were yesterday, but you're not an attendant today. You're a processor and you get paid differently and you're held to a different standard.
Dave, can you remind me the rate? It sounds like we pay a processor $2 more per hour, but then there was a differentiation on the amount of pounds they process.
Yep.
What was the bump on that? Is that 20 cents or is it more than that?
So I want to make sure I answer your question. So an attendant's responsibility is 20 pounds an hour. In addition to their other responsibility, a processor's minimum standard to keep their job is 30 pounds an hour. But most
Okay.
are averaging around 45 pounds an hour.
And the compensation, so for us, and it'll
That's right.
vary, your minimum wage is higher there. So for us, our attendants, somebody who's an attendant, they get paid $14 an hour and they get 10 cents a pound for any wash, dry, fold they process. So it's not super big. The difference is with a processor, they get paid base pay of $16 an hour, and then they get paid 20 cents per pound for every pound over their 30 per pound minimum per hour. And that gets applied to their rate. So if you remember, I sent you a Excel worksheet. Yes. I sent you an Excel worksheet where you can plug it in. So for processors, you want to pay them at least 5 to 8 over your workable minimum wage. And then remember, we look at how many pounds per hour did they process over the course of their 2-week pay period. So let's say they processed 40 pounds an hour. That was their average. So you would take 40 minus 30, and that would be $10, 10 pounds per average over. So that 10 would get multiplied by the 20 cents, which would be $2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of getting paid our base rate of 16, they get paid another $2 per hour. So they're making 18 per hour. Does that make sense?
Okay. It's an additive to the base rate. I was trying. Okay. So they could make quite a bit of money.
Ours average 19, 20, $21 an hour, though they were hired at 16.
And if you take
really incentivizes them to be fast.
And if you take an attendant, because this is where you are, and this is maybe Michael might be starting this now. This is where you are, Craig and Michelle. If you hire an attendant at $14, let's make up numbers, right? These are our numbers. $14 an hour, $3 to $4 above minimum wage. And then you tell them, hey, I'm kind of hiring you for 2 jobs, right? One night you might do this, one night you might do this. Now they're very similar, right? And these are the nuances, these are the difference. One night we'll have you do this. But when you're a processor, you're going to make $2 more an hour. And that's assuming you only hit your 30 pounds an hour minimum and you have no other responsibilities, right? Now, most likely what you're going to do is most people hit around 40, 45 pounds an hour. And we have people as high as 50 or 55 pounds an hour, right? And so you kind of dangle that carrot, which is very real. and you say, if you can achieve these things. And then the other thing I'll say, I know Michelle mentioned earlier, you know what? Some people are just they're meant to be an attendant and they're not meant to be a processor.
I mentioned that
And
in the
you have
chat.
to, yep,
Most
and
of
you
the
have
people
to
do
know that
not do
too.
both roles because
That's
they're
right.
different personalities and
That's right.
different strengths.
Very much so. And so that's a nuance that the champion, you remember, I'm always using that term in the workshop. Whoever the champion is, whoever the operator is, remember that active management, it's their job to understand that this person can come in and be an attendant, but this person cannot be a processor, right? Or maybe they can do both, right? And we have that even to this day. We have people that are attendants, and they can handle a little bit of drop off in addition to customer service and cleaning, but they cannot handle being a processor. Well, if we know that, and we've done this before, we have an attendant working tonight, and notice I use the word attendant, and Sally is capable of doing both. Okay, she's capable of being independent, capable of being a processor. She's working tonight from 5 to 9, and we need to call somebody in to be a processor. We'll call them in to be the attendant, and we'll take Sally and make her the processor. Does that make sense? Did you
She's
follow that?
better suited for that
Yeah,
role.
it does.
I
I started this discussion on reducing expenses, but it sounds like we're going to pay a lot for these processors. I don't, the math just doesn't, yeah.
Yep. If you have the handbook in front of you, what page was that at the end of the workshop? We were talking about that one.
So 143 is where the table is, and then
For the table, I didn't hear
but
that.
I agree. We just haven't implemented the processor role. We can do that starting next week.
Sure.
We're going to have a staff meeting on Saturday. We can introduce this concept, and that gives us the ability to maybe do unattended, make the store unattended, and avoid paying certain hours. So that would, I'm just looking at how this would play out. Because currently we're basically staffing the store during every single hour and running at a very low production rate. So we would concentrate all the laundry into a processor role that comes in and then stop manning the stores as much, go unattended.
This is a much more in-depth conversation.
Yeah.
We could probably get into here, but that's the last thing you'd want to do.
Yeah.
The last thing that you would want to do is eliminate your attendance. Your attendance, let me give you an example. If you have an attendant on duty 10 hours a day and they are held accountable and you have the laundry and they're accountable of 20 pounds per hour, that attendant during their free time, right, because they're staggering their responsibilities, they can process 200 pounds a day, right? Does that make sense? The last thing, and that's free labor, right? That's labor you're already paying for in your self-serve business model. Now, if you're going to be unattended, that's a completely different conversation, but I know that's not your business model, right? So you want to start with the attendants. You want to utilize their excess capacity first, right? And then call in a processor. So I'm not
My
sure.
lead attendant, my lead attendant's able to help customers and process a bunch of laundry. So
Sure.
it's doable.
Sure.
So.
If they work a 5-hour shift and you have the drop off or pickup and delivery there, they should be able to process at 20 pounds an hour. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't, they're either a not good at fit for that position, which is possible, or they haven't been trained on how to do it. Right. It could be an effort thing. Could be I don't want to work. I just want to sit here and play on my phone. That's possible. Right. Especially when you guys are at home and you're not there. But you also have to remember that it may be a training thing of they can't do it because they're trying to do one task at a time. Right. And the key to the whole thing for processors and attendants is staggering those orders. If you stagger those orders around your other responsibility, it becomes very efficient, but you have to train them to do that.
And when we use up all of the time and we need a processor, that's when we go to the processor model. So I don't think we're there yet.
For sure. It depends on your volume. And I'll leave you guys with this. I know we're way over on time. That one of the trickiest parts is, like, this isn't an all or nothing proposition, right? It's not I have this much labor and I have this much laundry. Like, the laundry doesn't always come in when you have the labor, right? And so you have to pick that too, right? Sometimes we will, and there's some creative things you can do for pickup and delivery. I try not to do this for drop off. Somebody comes in and drops off. I might say, oh, normally we have next day returns, but we have 3 orders in front of you. This isn't going to be ready till Wednesday when they're dropping off. Is that okay? 99.9% of the time, they're like, yeah, that's fine. No big deal, right? And now what that does is I know I'm out of free labor today and I'm kicking the can to tomorrow. Right? Because tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but right now I'm going to take this one order where I know about a capacity today. and I push it to tomorrow. Now, where you can't do that with your routes, right? When you run your routes, you got to run your routes and they got to be efficient. So you can't kick that to the next day, but drop off you can. Sometimes we'll even call customers, right? Maybe they dropped off and we said it'd be ready tomorrow. We'll call them 4 hours later and say, hey, when you drop this off, we told you it'd be ready tomorrow. Our apologies. That's probably not going to happen. We got a lot of laundry and the attendant that checked you in didn't realize that. Is it okay if it's ready on Wednesday? And 99% of the time they'll say, yeah, that's fine. So those are some little nuanced things that you can do too. That's all part of what I call active management. Just little tweaks like that can make a drastic difference in the efficiency of your labor. But it just requires somebody to manage them. And you can't manage them if you didn't train that way, right? If you didn't teach them how to speak Spanish, you can't speak Spanish to them because they don't understand it, right? All right. Wow. What a
Dave,
call, you guys. Holy
Thanks.
moly.
Michael had a question in the chat, and
Yeah.
I don't know because I'm not that much into operations and people. What kind of shifts do we run at our store? He said he's open 15 hours and runs 2 7.5-hour shifts. What's our shifts mostly?
It's different every single day. It's all available.
To do kind of the Monday through Friday,
Generally speaking.
9 to 5 or whatever.
Yeah, what we prefer to do is to have and this is definitely not a for sure thing. What we prefer to do is have our managers work kind of an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday shift. And then the attendants work the evenings and weekends, right? Now, at our Amelia store, for example, which you've been to for the workshop, I mean, we have 5 people working at one time sometimes. And so that's not, that's pickup and delivery. That's half of our volume, drivers, things like that. But at a store that maybe wasn't doing pickup and delivery or wasn't doing much pickup and delivery, what we try, and you may not be here yet, you may not have any managers yet. What we tried to do, I'm going to go back to like when we first started out for you, because that's probably more where you are.
Mm-hmm.
I would work some shifts at the store. I would cover some shifts. A lot of times I was the redundancy. And what I was trying to do is get 9 to 9 covered every day. And if you told me you could only work 9 to 2, great. I was trying to find somebody that could work 2 to 9, right? Now, one thing I'm picking up on, I may be dead wrong on this. Are you trying to find like what I call set schedules? Like, are you not to do payroll in a schedule every 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I'm having to do a schedule every week, and it is challenging, with everyone's schedules and trying to mix, 4 employees to fit the, But I was just picked up on, like I said, you mentioned like a shorter shift. I'm like in my head, I'm thinking, are my shifts too long, and is that affecting productivity maybe, or I don't know.
If they're not longer than 8 hours, I wouldn't sweat it too much. But it's we hire part-time attendants. Part-time could look like 3 8-hour shifts, right? That's 24 hours, right?
Right.
I mean, it could also be 3 10-hour shifts. Not that we've ever done that, but I mean, that would be 30 hours, still not full time, right? It could also be 5-hour shifts, which is 25 hours. A lot of it depends on their availability.
Yeah.
And putting together a schedule, we try to do it over a 2-week pay period.
Marlene does it now.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
it's much more complicated now.
Yeah.
But I'll get back to when we were where you are, Michael. I was doing the schedule, and I eventually handed that off to Marlene. But what I was doing and what she was doing is we required them to have that, whether they were full-time or part-time, we required them to have their requests off in 5 days before we started the schedule. And the schedule started 5 days before the payroll or comes out 5 days before the new pay period. So if a new pay period starts on Sunday, that schedule comes out 5 days before that. And 5 days before that is when they have to have their requests off. Right.
Okay.
So that's the first thing you have to do is you have to give them deadlines. Then you have to give yourself deadlines as to when the schedule will come out. And then it's just a puzzle, right? Because if you tell them, hey, after this date, unless it's an emergency, there are no requests off. You knew about your, sister's wedding, 2 months ago. You didn't tell me about it, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I have that right now. It's like
once we drop the
it has to be before the schedule comes out. Like you can't ask me after I already sent it out. Now, now all of a sudden you need Wednesday off. It's like, why didn't you, you have to tell me before, right?
And then once the schedule comes out, it's up to the attendants to cover their shifts, right? And if they need to call off, you need to have built-in forms of redundancy, which in your situation is not easy. Usually a form of redundancy is 2 things. One, bribing people, right? You try to call Sally to come in. Sally says, man, Michael, I already worked 5 days this week. I'm tired. I need this day off. And you'd be like, I'll give you a $25 gift card to Texas Roadhouse if you'll come in tonight. I mean, I've
Right.
really done that. I mean, like I'll bring you a $50 bill up to the store during your shift and hand it to you. And it's
Right.
taxable. It's a gift, right? I've literally done this
The
before,
IRS disagrees.
right? Yes. I'm just saying, I'm giving hypothetical examples
Right.
of what you
That did
could
really
do.
happen, IRS.
You think the IRS is in our chat?
Right.
Anyway, what I always tell people is two things, right? A little humor, but money solves a lot of problems, right? When people don't want to do things, what do you do? Incentivize them, right? It could be, hey, I'll give you off your birthday next week, which I wasn't gonna. I mean, there's a million different ways to barter this system, but that's one way to do it. When you have a small team, right, and you have people that maybe aren't a Marlene or a Carrie. I mean, you haven't found those people, those rock stars that are your right hand man or woman. Sometimes you just need to good old fashioned bribe them. And then the reality is, part of being a business owner is if that doesn't work, you are the redundancy, my friend. I I am the redundancy, right? And let that motivate you. The fact that you have to work tonight and you're missing time with your family and it irritates you as part of being a business owner. One, if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? So this is separating you, the wheat from the chaff. But also what it should do is motivate you to build a stronger team, right? And the only way to do that is keep investing, keep plowing. You know, your team is probably a lot better today than it was 2 years ago. 2 years from now, daggone it, if I have to die, they're going to be stronger in 2 years than they are today, right? And you just keep working on all those principles of business ownership, those redundancies. And as you generate more revenue, you start creating layers of management and trainers and different bonus structures. And I mean, that's literally one step at a time, just like eating the elephant earlier. One bite at a time is how we built Queen City Laundry into what it is today. And by the way, it's a lot harder to do with one store. Like there are things that are harder about multiple stores, but there are also things that are easier because you can, especially if they're close together. All four of our stores are within 15 minutes of each other, right?
Right.
We cross train. Everything is a mirror image of each other at every store. If they're an attendant at that store and they're a processor at that store, it looks exactly the same. So
Yeah.
they work at this store one time for a 4-hour shift, and now they know where all the keys are, they know where all the codes are, they know where all the cleaning supplies are, and they could come over the next week and cover a shift there. And I've never done this, but I know people that, hey, if you have your home store, which is the Amelia store, if you work at the Anderson store, you automatically get a $2 shift differential, right? Just for working at a store that's not your home store.
Right.
That's
Incentive, right.
and you can just slide it right into their bonus, right? They don't have to actually change their hourly pay. But I mean, these are examples of what I say throwing money at problems can create redundancies. And they're designed to be short term,
But if
not
you
long
throw
term.
money too often, it creates other issues.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, eventually they figure out the game and they're like,
Right. Then they start gaming it. Right.
that's exactly right. And that's say you have to solve the problem long term. This is designed to be a short term problem.
Right.
And if you get people gaming the system too much and they're like, oh, well, I'll come in. What's it worth to you?
Yeah.
I've had that happen to me. And you know what? I said, never mind.
Never mind.
I
Right.
went in and worked the shift.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're way
Yeah.
over on time,
Yeah.
but this was one of our meatiest
It was good.
coaching calls we've ever had. So fantastic questions. Thank you for staying. I know you guys probably have a lot of other things to do. Once again, this recording will be on the community memberships. If you want to go back and review it again, I think the only thing you can't see is the chat. You can't see what happens over there, but you can see the video and the audio and everything. So go back and check this out. This was a really good episode. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you guys next month.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone.
Bye.